After his incident with the coaches, James was ordered to stay in the shed for a while. He felt even worse when the Fat Controller warned him that if he didn't behave, he would lose his red coat and be painted blue instead. "Mended by a passenger's bootlace," James groaned. "How will I ever face the others?" He found out soon enough, as one by one his friends slowly steamed back into the sheds for the night. They'd already heard the news. "Ah, the inexperience of youth," huffed Gordon. "You've only got yourself to blame, you know." Thomas found the whole idea a great joke. Only Henry was somewhat sympathetic of James's position. "Honestly, James, I don't think the Fat Controller would have you repainted, no matter how much trouble was caused. And I speak from experience." "How would you know?" snorted James. "You got shut up in that tunnel for the sake of your paintwork." "True enough," remarked Henry. "But I think you'd be surprised by what happened when the Fat Controller suggested I be painted blue." "You were blue?" gasped James. The other engines chuckled. "Oh, go on, do tell him what happened, Henry," they urged. So this was the story Henry told. After Gordon burst his safety valve, Henry had been brought out of the tunnel to help pull his train with Edward. The two engines helped Gordon home, and the Fat Controller was so pleased he promised Henry a new coat of paint. "Would you like blue and red?" he asked. "Oh yes, please, sir," beamed Henry. "Then I'll be just like Edward and Gordon. That'll be lovely." A few days later, Henry pulled into the yard with his new blue coat sparkling in the sun. Gordon and Edward were both impressed and surprised. "Well, well," grinned Thomas, "I'm glad you've realised blue is the only proper colour for an engine. It rather suits you." Henry was pleased with his new livery too. If only he knew how much trouble it was going to cause from then on. Next day, Henry pulled into the big station with the local. "Look, Mummy," called a little boy, "I didn't know Gordon was taking us to town today." His mother pointed to the first platform as Gordon pulled in ready to take the express. Grunted Henry. Later, Thomas scampered into the yard in his cheeky way and slowly approached a big blue coal tender. "Wake up, lazy wheels," he whistled. Henry was so surprised he lurched backwards and nearly derailed his tender. "Oops, sorry about that, Henry," stuttered Thomas. I thought you were Gordon. Really must dash to fetch the next train." And he puffed quickly away. "Oh, honestly," wheezed Henry. Henry tried hard to get on with his work, but he soon found no matter where he went, while everyone waved to him, they were actually taking down Gordon's number instead. The Fat Controller was slowly losing patience too. "This is most inconvenient," he told Henry crossly, "but the works are far too busy to repaint you straight away. However, I will have the men modify the top of your funnel. With a spot of gold colouring on there, everyone can at least try and tell you two apart." Edward tried to cheer Henry up. "Thomas is sorry he scared you the other day," he said kindly, "and I'm sure he means it. After all, he only apologises for his teasing once in a blue moon." "Oh, I didn't mind that really," sighed Henry, "but I wish all these mix-ups with Gordon would stop. You know, it makes no difference even if I whistle. People far from the line think they can hear you coming. No offence intended, Edward." "None taken," came the reply, "although if I were ever green, I'd be quite happy to be mistaken for you. You always look so splendid, whatever colour you are in." That made Henry feel just a little better. Early next morning, the firelighter arrived to make up Henry's fire, so that he could be ready to pull the early morning fish train. The firelighter was feeling very tired. He'd been up all night celebrating following a darts match win against the plate layers. "Oh, my head feels like a cabbage," he groaned as he opened the shed door. He walked towards an engine's cab, but his eyes weren't adjusted properly until he was standing on the footplate. He finished his work as best he could, and then he staggered to the signal box for some coffee. An hour later, Henry's crew arrived to discover their engine wasn't in steam yet. "Hang on, Gordon's not scheduled to take the kipper, is he?" asked Henry's fireman. Henry's driver peered through the shed door. He could see what had happened, and explained. "It'll take ages to get Henry ready now," he said. "I suppose Gordon will have to do it. He won't be best pleased." He certainly wasn't. Gordon was doubly furious to be up so early and doing a job he felt was beneath him. "A fish train! A fish train!" he muttered sulkily. "My feelings are truly beyond words." By the time Gordon returned to the shed, Henry had plenty of steam. The fat controller spoke crossly to the firelighter when he heard what had happened. "You can hardly blame me, sir," the firelighter stammered. "The two engines look one and the same." The fat controller pondered. I can see your point, and I'll see to it. But," he went on, "do be sure your after-hour activities don't interfere with your work in future." The firelighter went home for a lie down, embarrassed. "Henry," said the fat controller, "given this morning's events, you will have to pull the express in place of Gordon. But once that's done, I want you to report back here to be repainted in green. Hopefully that should avoid any more confusion or delay." "You don't have to tell me twice, sir," puffed Henry happily. So it was arranged. Henry was repainted back into his old green coat. He felt much better right away. From then on, the passengers greeted him as they always did. People waving took down his correct number, and the firelighter was extra careful not to make the same mistake again. "There you have it," finished Henry. "I'm delighted to say I've been a glorious green ever since." James was quiet for a little while, and then he suddenly spoke. "Thank you, Henry. Next time I see the fat controller, I shall tell him what a terrible idea repainting me would be. After all, he wouldn't want to end up with two Edwards, would he?" "On the contrary," chuckled Edward, who'd been pretending to be asleep. "I think the fat controller would love to have two of me." And everyone laughed, except James.